Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Adult franchise. Decision makers, policy makers. Who are they? So, this is the adult franchise, which universal adult franchise, adult suffrage. All these are the same thing which comes or which is popularly or commonly known as the voting right to vote. So it is explained over here also. Franchise is one's choice of right to express one's will through casting a vote. It is also known as suffrage. It's our choice, our wish. Whosoever we want, we can cast our vote in favor of that particular leader, particular political party. Suffrage is the right to vote, and when it is given to all adults without any discrimination on the basis of religion, race, caste, or sex, it is called universal adult franchise or suffrage. When without any discrimination, every citizen avail this right, avail these facilities, then it has been considered as universal adult franchise. In our country, the minimum age for casting vote is 18 years. 18 years and above. Minimum age is 18 and above. They are eligible to cast the vote. Then this is the example quoted about that during the British India. What type of the practice was there? All the citizens were not given the right, and one vote, one value was also not there. Right to vote was not granted. But a moment India got its independence after the British colonial rule, with under the new constitution, the right to vote was conferred upon all citizens, men and women, without any discrimination. There were no any discrimination. Under the constitutional guidelines, 18 years and above, every citizen can avail this facility. They have the right to vote. They can they can participate in the election process. This is very important. Many of the countries, when they have not granted this right to vote on the equality basis, where the gender discrimination was done, racial discrimination was also done in some of the countries. So under this suffrage movement, now we are coming to discuss about that, how the women, they raise their voice against this injustice, and in which year they avail these facilities in the different countries. In England, till the end of the 18th century, only few people had the right to vote. This is the circumstances were there. They were having the constitution. Constitutional monarchy was there. But this facility, right to vote, was not only the women, even though the in all male member were also not given this right to vote. They were those who owned property, according to the ownership of the property, and the educated, their educational qualification as well as their wealth, and on that proportion, some of the male members were given the right to vote. But even though the women from those families also, they were not having this right to vote, because these women, they did not have the right to own property as well. Not only that, they were denied to give the right to vote, but the ownership of property was also not given to women. Later on, in the 19th century, reforms were introduced to give the right to vote to the people. In the 19th century, till the 18th century, this way the differentiation were there. In the 19th century, some of the reforms were introduced, and according to that, the right to vote to the people was granted. But Even though the women, they were not allowed to vote. Women, they did not get this voting right. They organized a protest movement against this policy. The protesters were known as the suffragettes. These women, this picture is about the suffragette. Finally, in 1928, women were given the right to vote and treated at par with men. In 1928, in Britain, this right to vote was granted to women, and they got the equal right as the male member. The women were given this right to vote in USA in 1920. Although the USA declared its independence in the year 1776, and the women, they got their voting right in 1920. In France, it is 1944, and in Switzerland, it is 1971. So this way, these gender discrimination were there. Then we are coming to discuss with the racial discrimination under this headline of anti-apartheid struggle. The policy based on racial discrimination is known as apartheid. This policy was prevalent in South Africa. The moment this comes about this is the South African flag. Apartheid word gives that the reflection about that the South Africa. This policy was prevalent in South Africa and sometime in the United States of America, USA, where the black people of any country were tortured due to the racial discrimination, as they were not the natives of the land. Their forefathers were brought the, or they were the migrated to this country, so they have not getting that equal right. Their life was very miserable. The black people were denied the right to vote, to travel and mix up with the people. The different wells are there, different schools are there, the living areas were different, cinema halls are different. So they are segregated in all the entire thing which is related to their day to day. In our country, Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation, he also had faced the same discrimination, and he was thrown out from the train. What was the reason behind it? Because in those days, in first class compartment, this other than the whites were not allowed to travel. So this is the second picture is of the South Africa only. South Africa was under the control or under the rule of the British Empire. So he has been thrown out from the train as he was traveling in the first class compartment, where this other than the whites, they are not Miss Elizabeth. So this way, what he did, he was thrown out of the train because he was black and not supposed to travel with the white people. So what Mahatma Gandhi decided, he has started one movement. He has started a movement against the racial discrimination, which is anti-apartheid movement in South Africa for those Indians who were suffering from this problem. So this is about that, the contribution of this Mahatma Gandhi, how he has raised his voice against this injustice. Anti-apartheid struggle. Now we are coming to discuss with this the role played by Dr. Nelson Mandela. Just now in the previous slide, we saw the picture of Abraham Lincoln when he has given this definition of democracy. Democracy is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. Then, other than that, also, he has the contemporary president of the USA, and he sacrificed his life in order to abolish slavery. In South Africa, This is Dr. Nelson Mandela and his party, African National Congress, ANC. After a long period, this Dr. Mandela became the first president of independent South Africa. But his contribution was that he has raised his voice against the racial discrimination. There is means that naturally born citizens should not be discriminated. The General Assembly and the Security Council, in the context of this, now we are coming to discuss with that the 50 years the Africans in the USA to get freedom from the apartheid and the segregation. This is actually the condition of the USA where this racial discrimination was followed. It took more than 50 years to settle down this discrimination and segregation. This is the movement against the apartheid proved the true spirit of democracy. General Assembly and the Security Council, these are the two important organs of the UNO, United Nations Organization. The apartheid policy as inhuman and against the charter of the UN. This is apartheid has been mischaracterized or declared by the UN General Assembly and by the Security Council of the United Nations. They declared that it is inhuman practice and it is against the charter of the United Nations. This apartheid was termed by the UNO as a crime against humanity and the dignity of the man. So this way, anti-apartheid struggle has been completely abolished. It has been controlled. Now there is no practice of this racial discrimination. Because UN has declared it against the humanity and against the dignity of the